Introduction of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Recording by Larry Wilson. Gilbert Keith Chesterton by Maisie Ward. Introduction. Chiefly concerning sources. The material for this book falls roughly into two parts, spoken and written. Gilbert Chesterton was not an old man when he died, and many of his friends and contemporaries have told me incidents and recalled sayings right back to his early boyhood. This part of the material has been unusually rich and copious, so that I could get a clearer picture of the boy and the young man than is usually granted to the biographer. The book has been in the making for 6 years and in 3 countries. Several times I hid it aside for some months so as to be able to get a fresh view of it. I talked to all sorts of people, heard all sorts of ideas, saw my subject from every side. I went to Paris to see one old friend, to Indiana to see others, met for the first time in lengthy talk Maurice Baring, H.G. Wells, and Bernard Shaw, went to Kingsland to see Mr. Belloc, gathered Gilbert's boyhood friends of the Junior Debating Club in London, and visited Father Brown among his Yorkshire moors. Armed with a notebook, I tried to miss none who had known Gilbert well, especially in his youth. E.C. Bentley, Lucian Oldershaw, Lawrence Solomon, Edward Fordham. I had 10 long letters from Annie Furman, my most valuable witness as to Gilbert's childhood. For information on the next period of his life, I talked to Monsignor O'Connor, to Hilaire Belloc, Maurice Baring, Charles Summers Cox, F.Y. Eccles, and others, besides being now able to draw on my own memories. Frances I had talked with on and off about their early married years ever since I had first known them, but she was, alas, too ill and consequently too emotionally unstrung during the last months for me to ask her all the questions springing in my mind. "Tell Massie," she said to Dorothy Collins, "not to talk to me about Gilbert. It makes me cry." For the time at Beaconsfield, out of a host of friends the most valuable were Dr. Pocock and Dr. Bakewell. Among priests, Monsignors O'Connor and Ronald Knox, Fathers Vincent McNabb, O.P., and Ignatius Rice, O.S.B., were especially intimate. Dorothy Collins' evidence covers a period of 10 years. That of H.G. Wells and Bernard Shaw is reinforced by most valuable letters which they have kindly allowed me to publish. Then, too, Gilbert was so much of a public character and so popular with his fellow journalists that stories of all kinds abound. Concerning him there is a kind of evidence, and very valuable it is, that may be called a Boswell collective. It is fitting that it should be so. We cannot picture G.K., like the great lexicographer, accompanied constantly by one ardent and observant witness, pencil in hand, ready to take notes over the teacups. And by the way, in spite of an acquaintance who regretted in this connection that G.K. was not latterly more often seen in taverns, it was over the teacups even more than over the wine glasses that Boswell made his notes. I have seen Boswell's signature after wine, on the minutes of a meeting of the club, and he was in no condition then for the taking of notes. Even the signature is almost illegible. But it is fitting that Gilbert, who loved all sorts of men so much, should be kept alive for the future by all sorts of men. From the focusing of many views, from many angles, this picture has been composed, but they are all views of one man, and the picture will show, I think, a singular unity. When Whistler, as Gilbert himself once said, painted a portrait, he made and destroyed many sketches. How many it did not matter, for all, even of his failures, were fruitful. But it would have mattered frightfully if each time he looked up he found a new subject sitting placidly for his portrait. Gilbert was fond of asking in The New Witness of people who expressed admiration for Lloyd George, "Which George do you mean?" For chameleon-like the politician has worn many colors, and the portrait painted in 1906 would have had to be torn up in 1916. But gather the Chesterton portraits, read the files when he first grew into fame, talk to Mr. Titterton, who worked with him on the Daily News in 1906, and on G.K.'s Weekly in 1936. Collect witnesses from his boyhood to his old age, from Dublin to Vancouver, individuals who knew him, groups who are
Sample complete. Ready to continue?